Welcome to Making a Living. My name is Nancy Greene, and I talk to people about their jobs and careers, what they do, how they got there, and perhaps where they're heading. Today I'm speaking with Dr. Eitan Hori, who is a veterinarian out of Rock Hill, New York. He was born and raised in Israel, and he was trained in Israel, but he's going to tell us more about his journey to Rock Hill a bit later. But we first met when my beloved dog Fiona, who was 15, her time had come. And after a few months of torturous taking care in her senior citizenhood and walking around in the middle of the night and freezing with her, it finally I realized that the time had come. And we had made the choice to have her put to sleep at home. And Dr. Hori came, and he was really, really great. And I felt like we wanted to talk with him. And my husband and I really had a life experience that day, and he was so kind. He came over. He agreed to do it outside. It was a beautiful April day, and Dr. Hori is going to tell us more about his voyage here. Welcome, Eitan.
Hi, Nancy. Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I wanted to also mention, and you're going to talk to us about that, you have an interesting business model, and that is that you make home visits a lot, and that you basically work out of your own mobile unit. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that first?
Sure, Nancy. I'd be glad to. This model, I came to think about this when a couple of years ago, an elderly member of this community called, and he had a problem with his dog, and he was homebound. He couldn't go anywhere, couldn't take the dog anywhere. And I said, okay, I'll come to you. And in the evening I came and treated the dog. The dog had an infection. I treated him successfully with antibiotics, and I got a very good reaction from this owner, very good feedback. And I started thinking, what about all the others, members of the community who are disabled, who are elderly, who are afraid to go outside when the roads are icy or slippery? Are they able to give the proper care to their pets? And I realized this service has a great need here.
Have you found that basically putting an office and all that goes into an office into your mobile unit was a challenge?
It's a challenge, but this service that I give has almost everything that a veterinarian needs other than doing surgery. And some things that I cannot do, I always refer to other hospitals in the area. And I am affiliated with some of them, and there is a good cooperation.
How many patients do you feel you can see in a day? And I'm assuming you do mainly small animals, dogs and cats, and are there others?
Yeah, pets, dogs and cats, some exotics from time to time, birds, reptiles, rodents, here and there. When you work in an office, you see a client almost every 20 minutes. Obviously, when you do this, you can't do that. So I found this way of working also more fit my personality, because it's more of a connection between me and the pet owner. And even though I don't see as many clients a day as I could, I find this way of working very, very nice.
Now, let's go back to the euthanasia. And I certainly don't want anyone to think that that is the, primary focus of your practice. But I know from being a pet owner for many years and knowing many others that more and more it's a major issue. Dogs are living longer because the care seems to be better, and people just want a more personalized way of saying goodbye. And I know in my case, Fiona had this terrible fear of the vet's office, and she hated it. And the idea of bringing her there was more than I could bear for her. And are you finding that that's a trend, and that people are not, because many times I found that people aren't even aware that it's a possibility that someone might come to your home. What are you finding?
Yes, when these things, when there is a need for euthanasia, what I find is that doing it in the environment that the pet is familiar with and the owner is familiar with, like the home in your case was with Fiona and the lovely house that you have over there, makes this very difficult emotional situation somewhat easier and brings a lot of comfort. And the more the word gets around and the more people are aware of this service, the more the demand goes.
Do you find that you have to help people decide that the time is right? Because I know in my case, the vet who knew Fiona for a long time wasn't all that helpful, but finally my neighbors, I noticed, were a bit on the encouraging side because they maybe saw things that I couldn't see.
Right. The decision whether to euthanize or not is a very complex, and every case is different. And the answer for each case is also somewhat philosophical, and there isn't a right thing to do or a wrong thing to do. When you see a pet that does not improve despite of all the treatments and everything that we're doing, and the quality of life, and again, that's subjective. What is the quality of life if a dog is not able to get up and walk outside and urinate, and instead of that, she urinates and defecates on herself or something like that? Who are we doing this for? Are we doing it for our sake, or are we doing it for the pet's sake? And this is my point of view on that. And when I see a situation like that, I do not hesitate to tell my opinion. If that's what it is, then I say it.
And I think it's important because I don't want to be here and start crying right now, but you helped, honestly, and I hadn't met you before, but you helped make a very sad experience into a sad but beautiful experience. Now, it was, you encouraged us, you want to do it outside on a sunny day, go ahead, let's do it. You just made it a great experience. And I will say that I have a new dog now, Floyd, who, we'll hopefully have him for a very, very long time. Let's go back and talk about how did you first become interested in becoming a vet?
That's something that since I was a kid, I felt the urge to help animals, and the connection that I had with the outdoors and my interest in animals was since I remember myself. And then as I grew older, the interest in science combined into that. And the ideal thing for me to do is to be able to get my knowledge in science and everything, and to be able to help animals. And glad that I was able to fulfill this dream.
Where did you grow up in Israel? Were you in the city or were you in the country?
No, I was a city boy. I grew up in Tel Aviv, and I graduated from the high school in Tel Aviv, and I learned biology in the Tel Aviv University, and after that, the vet school in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem.
And did you practice in Israel, and how did you make the decision to get here?
Right, it's a big difference from the big
Tel
city
Aviv,
of
yeah.
Tel Aviv. I guess, it started when I was able to get my license here to work in New York State, and then I was able to find a job here. And we decided to give it a try, me and my family and everyone. We came here, and during the years we found this place to be ideal to raise a family.
So you came directly from your studies to New York?
I was practicing in Israel for about a year before I came here. There was a process that I had to do. There's the AVMA requires all kinds of tests, so you can be licensed in the United States. So I was working, and while I was doing that, I was doing this testing process and the licensure process.
And how many years have you been here now?
I've been here since 2004, so it's almost 10 years.
Did you first affiliate yourself with an office while you were here?
Yeah, I was working in an office here locally. And like I said, a few years ago, I started this business of doing the house calls. The office was closed or sold a couple of years ago, and I found myself doing these house call business more and more and more, and I love it.
What's the farthest distance you've had to travel to help a pet?
Well, I had people from Long Island. When you have a few clients the same day, it makes more sense to go all over there. And sometimes I end up going over there. But most of my clients are in Sullivan, Orange County, Ulster County, in this area.
And do you find that you're usually doing well visits, or are these usually, crisis points or illnesses that are calling you?
I could say a little bit of both, of all of them. When someone gets a new puppy and they don't want the puppy to be exposed to diseases, things like that, it's much more safer to give the first vaccine series at home. Routine visits, yearly annual checkups, blood tests. Animals with chronic diseases that need monitoring, repetitive monitoring. I come and we give this service as well. And unfortunately also animals which are very sick, I end up helping them as well.
Let's talk a little bit about Lyme disease, because I used to think that Fiona was safe because I gave her the monthly treatment. And then lo and behold, one day she got very, very sick from it, although she recovered. Are you seeing a lot of that up here? And what do you recommend treatment-wise?
Yes, unfortunately, it's a very common disease that I've been diagnosing here all the time. But the truth of the matter is, there is a way to cope with that and to prevent it. And first of all, there is a vaccine available. And I urge everyone who bring the dog here for the weekend or for a short period of time to have this vaccine done. Also, use the proper flea and tick preventative on a timely manner, especially at this time of the year when the deer tick is out there. And be very diligent about tick removal. Every time you go outside with your pet, you got to make sure you examine the pet, and if you see a tick, you got to remove it. In the beginning, they're very, very small, and it's difficult to see. It's a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge that needs to be taken care of. But with my experience, after I've been diagnosing a dog with Lyme, and after I explain the owner what they need to do, the next year when I come back and I test the dog, it's negative for Lyme, so obviously it's successful.
I'd like to let the folks who are listening know how to reach you, and is the best way, it's Dr. Eitan Hori at 845-800-1220. Is that correct? Yeah,
that's correct. And also, you can email me.
And what is your email?
eitanvet@hotmail.com. You feel free to email me on any pet-related question or contact me.
Eitan, I want to thank you so much. And again, you're always going to be an important part of our lives, whether you like it or not, because you stood there with us at a terrible time. And I hope other folks will be happy to hear from you and call upon you, because I think having your vet come to the house when your dog or cat is ailing is a wonderful and beautiful thing, and it saves a lot of emotions for everyone. I mean, just as you said, on a snowy winter day, putting your dog or cat in the car and waiting for an appointment and getting there just adds to the stress of it all. So thank you so much for talking with me today. This is Nancy Greene, Making a Living. We'll see you next time.
So, thank you, Nancy Greene.